So
Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock. And public testimony.
we do roll call.
Oh, sorry, yes. I got so excited.
I know. Joe Pishneri.
Here.
Brittany is excused. Daniel Davidson.
Here.
Cindy Koza is excused. Jonathan Hayes.
Here.
Carla Berg is excused. Terry Dillon.
Here,
Adam Jenkins.
Here.
Brett Yancey is excused. And Eric Adams.
Here.
okay. Has everybody had a chance to look at the meetings? And are there any changes? Maybe we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is business from the audience. So public testimony will be received during business from the audience. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded. The committee will listen to the comments, but will not respond to public comment until the committee response portion of the meeting agenda. Meeting minutes will be taken by staff and forwarded to the city manager and city council. Members of the public can always send written testimony to the committee or city council. As we begin our meeting tonight, I would ask members of the virtual audience to please keep yourself on mute until you are called on to provide public testimony. Speakers in person will be allowed to speak first, after which virtual members will be allowed to speak. I can hardly see this. Public testimony will allow speakers 2 minutes each for a total of 20 minutes. If you are joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak, please use the raise hand feature to make the request. You will be called on when it is your turn to speak. Please identify your name, Springfield board number, and the subject you would like to speak about. For people calling in by phone only, you are in listen mode only and cannot be called upon.
We do not have any online attendees and no one has submitted requests to speak.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is committee response, which we don't need this time. So business from SPD and the chief.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's good to see you again. I was not at the last meeting. I'm glad y'all got a chance to meet Deputy Chief Resch last time. Hope that went well. I've got kind of a lengthy update today, and most of it is about training. But before we get into that, I just want to touch base with everybody. So May is nationally recognized Mental Health Awareness Month. And the purpose of it is to help reduce some of the stigma that's associated with mental health issues. As police officers, I mean, the unfortunate reality is throughout the course of our day, the patrol officers are dealing with people on it pretty much every single day that are in the midst of some kind of a mental health crisis, regardless of what manifested that. So it's something that we are very familiar with and we deal with every day. But part of the idea behind Mental Health Awareness Month is to also create awareness around the police officers at SPD and how important their own mental health is as far as how they show up at work every day, and to really urge them to take care of themselves. We're extremely fortunate here to have a strong peer support program, to have a strong employee assistance program. And so for Mental Health Awareness Month, we made, and I should have brought one to show you, we basically made this police patch, but it's all green because green is the color for mental health awareness. And we gave one to everybody in the department just as a reminder to take care of yourself. And it's something, I mean, some statistics are, I wrote down here that 46% of Americans meet the criteria for a diagnosable mental health condition during their life. And half of them develop those by the time they're age 14. So it's something that I can almost guarantee that you know somebody that has some sort of mental health condition, you know, whether it's a friend, family, neighbor, something. It is prevalent, it's everywhere. And so it's just a way for us to kind of create awareness in May. So that's what we did the green patches for. As far as our training updates, so we have what's called our fatal investigation team. So when there's a bad car crash and somebody dies or they're seriously injured, they come out, they investigate the incident, almost like you'd investigate a homicide. It's very complicated. There's a lot of evidence collection and measurements and all kinds of stuff that goes into building all that. So we had 3 members just complete a 6-week accident reconstruction school. No, it wasn't 6 weeks all back to back. They did different 2-week chunks. But just last Friday, they all took their final exams and passed that. So we've got 3 new people that are accident reconstructionists. That's no small undertaking. So that's great for us. Stephanie Duxbury, who's one of our senior records folks, tomorrow graduates from a 6-week Northwest Women's Leadership Academy. And she started that back in November. So it advances women from a variety of local government entities with the goal of promoting more women into leadership positions. So Stephanie, has maintained a full-time job during that time and also gone to this leadership academy and taken on that extra role, which is, again, it's a great professional development opportunity for her. And it's really going to benefit SPD as well. So I just wanted to recognize her. And our very own Tiffany Monroe graduated from the International Public Safety Leadership and Ethics Institute, we call it IPSLE, at DPSST. And that was a 4-month course focused on developing personal leadership styles and leading others ethically. And just basically it was an opportunity for her with, I think there's 20 people in the cohort from law enforcement agencies around the state. And Tiffany was one of a very small number of that cohort that were not sworn police officers. So she was representing kind of the non-sworn professional staff around the state. And again, I'm super happy that she dove headfirst into that. It was a tremendous amount of work in addition to her doing her regular duties here at SPD. But great job, Tiffany, and thanks for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
Lieutenant Crawley, who I know he's presented here before, leaves on Monday. He's going to be in Boston for 3 weeks at a course called the Police Executive Research Forum, which is a national organization that I'm a member of. Chief Resch is a member of, and he's going to what's called the Senior Management Institute for Police. That is a 3-week course that has senior police executives from around the country in attendance. And they talk about the latest management concepts and tactics in not just the public sector, but in the private sector. There's instructors there from Harvard. There's instructors there from MIT. They bring in a lot of keynote speakers. And in my 30 years in the business, that is the best training that I've ever been to. And it's a chance to kind of network, and he will build relationships with people from small agencies all the way on up to, NYPD, LAPD, some really huge agencies that are doing some cutting edge stuff. And so this is a tremendous opportunity for the leadership team here at SPD and for George to get a chance to go back to do that. So that's something we've been working on for almost since I got here, 1.5 years, and it's finally come to fruition. It's very difficult to get into. And so George is going to be taking off this weekend to go spend the next 3 weeks back there. And I'm excited to talk to him when he gets back. We currently have on loan from the University of Oregon Police Department. It's called an Apex trainer. And basically what it is, it's like a 3D virtual reality trainer. It's the goggles that you put on. We have it set up here. They've been kind enough to loan it to us to try out for a while. And we're kind of trying to work something out with them, or maybe we can keep it for a longer period of time. But if not, we're also going to explore getting our own version of it. And the benefit of this is, I just tried it out last week when they had it set up. It's nothing short of amazing. You put on these VR goggles and you wear this pack on you. And when you put the VR goggles on, you can create any environment you want. So we have it set up and you're in the middle of a room. We have pads everywhere in the room. So it's about half the size of this. And you walk into this middle of this room and the person on the computer can control 360 degrees all around you. I mean, I walked in and I was in a 3-story nightclub and there's music and there's people running around and they can, it is absolutely amazing. You can interact with the people on the screen. The person on the computer can kind of control what happens. You can make somebody attack you. It can make somebody surrender. It can respond to things that you're saying to them. So you can have these conversations with these people basically and work on de-escalation scenarios and negotiation scenarios and everything in between. It is a pretty amazing tool that we're fortunate U of O loaned us. So that's something we can report back on how that goes. But at some point, it'd be great if this group could even get in there and put the goggles on and try it out.
I would love it to do that.
Yeah.
How long do we have that?
I don't know if we put a time limit on it. I'm sure we'll have it for the next month or so, something like that. And then, yeah, we're trying to work something out with U of O PD where maybe we kind of keep it indefinitely. And then when they need to send people over here, because we've got a place for it, then they can send their folks over here and use it. And then we get the benefit of not having to pay for the whole thing. And so we kind of, mutually beneficial for both of us.
That's great.
Yeah, And was it last Monday or 2 Mondays ago? We did a big hire group here recently where we hired 2 lateral officers, one from Eugene PD, one from Jackson County. We had 3 other new hire officers. We promoted Officer Brian Baser to sergeant to fill our vacant sergeant position. And we also hired Chris Solaris as our community outreach coordinator. Now, Chris Solaris used to be our community outreach coordinator. He got hired, I believe, right when COVID started and everything kind of shut down. And so during the, year and a half or 2 years, where we were living through that, he eventually left because he didn't get the opportunity to really do it the way that it probably should have been done because everything was closed down, but he's back now. And we're super excited to have him and he's hit the ground running. So he's somebody that you're definitely going to be seeing around town a lot. Yeah. So that is my SPD update.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, there's one other thing. Tiffany, I know what you're thinking.
I wasn't thinking it at all.
So Tiffany sits on the board for the Law Enforcement Torch Run, which is a statewide organization that raises money for Special Olympics. And she was selected to represent the entire state of Oregon at the Special Olympics Games in Germany. This is called the World Games. That was
Yeah,
called.
they're World Games. Yeah.
So she is going to be there with a team of athletes representing Oregon, which is a kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. If there's something more you want to tell about that, I'll let you do that. But she's raising money for that. And so I think it's on our Facebook page.
I don't think
Where?
Zach put it on Facebook.
Okay, so that's something we will get out to you all, but she's in a fundraising effort for that. And so I'm going to shamelessly plug that fundraising effort because that goes to a great cause. And we're super fortunate Tiffany gets to go do that.
And you forgot the most important part. I have to run 4 days in a
Oh, yeah,
row.
she's gonna be running.
The
The
torch
big
run.
heavy torch, right?
Yeah.
The 2 part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the money that was left over from our levy. Counselor Mo just informed me that we have a little bit left over that we donated, all $38.
Every bit helps. Every bit
That's great.
helps.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How much you trying to raise?
Well, so 50% of what I raise goes to Special Olympics Oregon and 50% goes to Special Olympics International. So I would really like to raise 6,000 so that Special Olympics Oregon gets kind of paid back for my plane ticket and my uniform kit that they purchased. So I want to give them at least 3,000 to cover that.
Have you started raising it?
Yes, I'm almost to 4 right now.
4,000.
Yes.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
You need just over 2,000?
Huh?
You need just over 2,000? Pull up your account. $3,000.
He's looking at you like, huh?
Is that what you were looking at before? Okay. About $1,000 if you do that, sure. This way to donate $1,000.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I control
Amazing.
everybody's money.
Huh?
I control everybody's.
I can see that.
Ask him how long he's been my account, first campaign account.
Probably since you've been campaigning.
Since 04. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I can't think of a better cause.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's my updates.
Okay. So now we went and did a subcommittee for our policy review. And the policies that we're going to talk about tonight are the consular and diplomatic relations and traffic enforcement. And I think your packet has these policies in it. Usually George comes in and talks about this. We're going to talk it.
So I can talk about these. Yeah, did George come into the last meeting or he met with some of the subcommittee
He
to
met
talk
with
about
us,
some of the
yeah.
policies? that- Okay.
Afterwards, yeah.
So as I looked at these 2 policies, the diplomatic and consular representative policy is one of our new policies. This is how they're going to look for our accreditation. We're rewriting all the policies, getting them more up to date, streamlining the format and everything. So this is a new up to date policy as of just a couple weeks ago. So the traffic enforcement policy is one we have not got to yet. This is one that's going to be entirely rewritten. So if there's things that you saw in your review of this that you have questions about, I'd be glad to hear it. But this is one that I think is probably going to be much shorter than this because part of what we're doing when this policy review is some of what we do, we've put, I think, far too much stuff in some of our policies. There's a lot of things that should just be kind of in standard operating procedures internally, like the how to do things. I think a lot of the how to do things has been lumped into our policies over time, and that's not where they belong. The policies should be a much higher level document that just kind of give us the guidelines of what we do and why we do it, but the how we do it belongs in a different place. And I think this is a perfect example of it. There's a lot of detail in this traffic enforcement policy of, you know, what the motorcycles are going to do and what the cars are going to look like and all that kind of stuff. And that's largely, those are largely things that belong in a different document than our policy. So I think this is one that we're probably going to do a total revamp on. But again, if there's things, have you all had a chance to kind of look through it, or do you want me to skim through it for the group, or how do you want to?
That'd be nice if you would, please.
Okay.
I have looked through it. I don't know if everybody has had a chance to do so.
It starts out with the goal of our traffic enforcement is to reduce traffic accidents, injuries, and make sure that, you know, the roadways are safe for the people of Springfield. And that's why we do traffic enforcement. We typically focus our traffic efforts with our motorcycle officers, who that's their full-time job, is to go out and do traffic enforcement every day. And where they work is usually driven by community complaints or high crash corridors, or that's how we typically put them out. They don't usually go out and just kind of patrol at random. Sometimes they'll be patrolling around town doing traffic stops. They might be doing a seatbelt mission or cell phones, or come out and work a DUI mission or something like that. But where our motor officers work and deliberate traffic enforcement is usually driven by community complaints. And I know there was one with loud trucks and stuff. Is that about a year ago, Councilor Fishneri? The truck, the Jake brakes and all that.
Oh, yeah.
That was a perfect example of like a community driven traffic mission based on noise.
That actually worked pretty well. Of course, they ran out of wood, but they ran out of trees, so there's not as many going down Main Street. That worked really well.
And that was a joint effort between, I think Public Works put their signs out there, and it was, multiple different folks that were kind of working.
They usually go out at the beginning of the school year and focus on the school zones. Just as a reminder to people, it's school starting again.
And when it comes to our traffic enforcement, it's not just about writing tickets, it's about creating awareness and changing behavior. So we can do that a lot of times without having to write a ticket. Sometimes we're gonna write a ticket. Sometimes we might give a verbal warning. Sometimes we might give a written warning. Sometimes just the presence of police cars and motorcycles in a certain area has an impact too. So there's a lot of different ways we can kind of impact that traffic behavior. Everybody in the PD is a traffic officer. We all have the ability to pull cars over, hold people accountable for poor driving behaviors. Patrol officers do that a lot during their shift, but they're also responding to calls for service and doing other things. So it's not their full-time job to do traffic enforcement, but everybody's capable of it and everybody's expected to take a part in that. We use unmarked cars sometimes. That's in here as well. Like our DUI, we have a dedicated DUI enforcement car, and that's an unmarked vehicle. It's got lights and sirens and all that kind of stuff, but it's an unmarked vehicle, so it can kind of get into traffic and get a little closer to people and kind of watch their behaviors before it makes the traffic stop. So that's one of the reasons behind that. But yeah, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have about human traffic enforcement, whether it's in this policy or not. But this policy is going to undergo a comprehensive rewrite and probably get shortened and cleaned up a little bit.
I do have one question.
Sure.
I live in the Washburn area and walk my dogs daily, as do many people there. And I understand that the code for Springfield says that every corner is a crosswalk. But I don't think many of the drivers know that. And I know that the times that I'll be halfway out, that cars will zoom up to me it's a high number of times that has happened. And I'm trying to, herd two dogs out of the way. So
Pedestrians, if you're crossing any crosswalk and it's unlit, there's not any kind of traffic control devices there, people are supposed to stop for you. So that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of thing I think there could be an awareness campaign, some social media stuff to remind folks, maybe even, do a few traffic stops, then people start talking on Facebook about like, hey, they're pulling us over for not stopping for pedestrians, that kind of thing. And so I appreciate that. Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So the committee met.
Oh, last month.
Last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cindy and Carly were there and myself. And we came up with a list of policies that we want to see things explored. So if there are any besides this list that you would be interested in, you can let us know.
And if you guys are good with this list, let us know so I
That's
can
perfect too.
finalize it.
That list attached on something.
Yeah, it's the
in
last
packet.
page in your packet.
And this is for the upcoming
Oh,
year. It's
Yeah, all the
not-
way until
Yeah. next
June of 24.
Yeah. So,
I do, if I may, got the one traffic question has nothing to do with enforcement, and it's random, sorry. Did the legislature this year make some modifications on motorcycle traffic passing between vehicles and?
I know there was a bill to allow lane splitting.
Yes.
I can't say for sure if it was enacted or not. I want to say it either is going to be, or maybe it just was, but I have to do some research on that. But I remember there was a bill prior to it being passed that somebody had submitted to allow for lane splitting.
I've seen a huge uptick of that, especially even at freeway speeds on 126, east and west off and down Main Street. There's one in particular is drive a Suzuki that's, I think it's a lime green car, but I've seen it several times in the last 2 weeks, probably 6 times. And I
I
know
mean, they still have to obey speed limits and they can't drive recklessly like
well,
split.
they said that like lane splitting, some of it, there's some states that state that is, if the speed is down below like 25, then they can lane split because they can go safely between them at a slow speed, but they can never lane split higher speeds than that because it's got a higher propensity for injury if there's an accident. But I have no idea. I've searched a little bit and I haven't found anything, but there's motorcycles out there that's driving around like that's passed.
Yeah, I'm doing a little Google search as we sit here and,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I see the Senate bill. Yeah, I don't know if that is officially passed or not, but that's something I can look up and I will email the group and get you an answer on that because it's something we need to know about.
Yeah, if it hasn't passed it, it's definitely an uptick and I've seen it multiple times, different times of the day. But especially on the freeway, it's just nuts. Thank you. Sorry.
hey, thank you. And now it's member share time. So do anybody have anything they'd like to offer, questions about?
Do we want to see if they want to approve this now or?
Yeah, we can. So if this list looks okay with everybody, then I have a motion.
Just one question.
Sure.
As far as the last thing. it's with you by the-
Yeah, I actually created a spreadsheet of that. Our subcommittee went over it.
Yeah.
So I had a list of every one of our policies and it seems like to me from my records that the committee only started doing this a few years ago.
Right,
So there wasn't a whole lot that had been reviewed.
right.
And so these are all ones that have not been reviewed by the committee. But I could send that list out to everybody, showing the dates that the other ones were, that have been reviewed. I am going through as George sends out, Lieutenant Crowley sends out emails saying, we're rescinding this one and I'm crossing it off so that we don't get that on our list.
Right.
So in general, these are for the maybe 3 years old.
Yes.
Yeah.
The drone one at the bottom is new.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that we talked about the drone one when the drone team first started coming, but I don't think the actual policy was
You
reviewed.
didn't, yeah, we didn't, yeah, we did not, I know that. So if this list is okay with everybody, do I have a motion to pass? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Second, thank you.
We have a forum,
Yeah, we have 2 people on the,
so if there's a motion,
then
we
we,
need to vote.
yes, so all in favor? Oh, is that coming on?
No, but I have them.
Ad-
Yeah.
Adam and Jonathan are voting yes.
Yes, thank you. Any no votes? Okay, motion's passed. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Lane splitting, first time I saw it was Mexico. They do that with trucks. Then I find out it's legal in California.
It's legal in California, but there's speed restrictions.
I have heard that. Thanks, but all I can think of is somebody opened the door on.
I've seen them planted into the guardrails.
Mental health department. Big deal. I was at the McKinsey Willamette this morning where they unveiled the new cardiac center. Boy, it's gonna be spectacular. Model of the United States. I sat next to a lady and talked to her. It turns out she's on Springfield Police. And she handles abused children. And so I just talked to her and I said, how's it going with you? And she hesitated before she answered me. That tells me something. She did. I said, what do you, there's something wrong here. She says, she takes that stuff home with her at night. Psychologically. I understand. There are people.
Reality is the opposite. The others see a lot of very dramatic things on a daily basis. So we gotta do everything we can to take care of it.
Over time, what that means is they'll start looking for another opportunity out there. It's less stressful for them. And we lose good people. Right.
thank you. Anybody else have anything?
Member share, anybody have?
Jonathan?
I was just going to say that when it comes to the mental health awareness, especially as first responders, we have to be more proactive as leaders because we know that our officers and our members, firefighters and medics, dispatchers, they are dealing with those stressors, and it's difficult for the personalities, that we find in those personnel to be able to come forward. So providing an opportunity, even if it's just a room, even if they don't say anything for the first few meetings, just give them that opportunity. It's like, hey, I'm going to meet with, I don't know the hierarchy exactly of the police department and how often the leadership can meet with officers individually. Like if you do shift briefings, like each shift select an officer, you just go to them one-on-one. Hey, is there anything you want to talk about? And consider opening up, having other people on like the peer support, because they may not feel comfortable talking to their brothers in blue within Springfield about things you're dealing with. They may actually feel more comfortable talking to another officer or a trained individual from outside of the area. It's easier for some people to open up to someone that they don't have to see and interact with on a daily basis, because sometimes we feel like, sharing and talking about things is a sign of weakness or judgment and whatnot. So if they have the opportunity to select someone that's not someone they're going to see every day, that may make someone more likely to share things and talk about things. The biggest thing we have to do is let people know that it's okay. We know what you're going through and it's okay to talk about it. We're not going to lose anything. It's actually more of a sign of strength to be able to process those micro traumas that we deal with every day before we just get triggered at the end of an 18-year career, and leave or do something else drastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jonathan.
Yes.
Oh, you actually, it's odd, I'm sitting here, of course, I'm flashing back to things. But when you mentioned that, there was an incident that I dealt with that was it was dealing with a death, and it was traumatic. But how I dealt with it was, it was a situation where I was given some CPR, et cetera, got blood on me, and I was focused on having to get to work, get to the office. And I came in, and apparently the word got out before I got there, but to this day, I remember walking down the hall, and one of the guys from the team comes up to me and puts his arm around me and said, "Pish, you okay?" And I just to this day, it comes back to me periodically about how just that one thing was so important. And there was many different, as you know, there's a lot of different traumatic things that happened that I've observed and been part of, but that one time was much more significant to me than the other dozen or two times before that and after that. It was, but what you're saying is spot on.
And I think it's also important to recognize that I've learned a lot over the past number of years, from my family, from friends, that, when you think about trauma, it's not always that scene that has all these bad things that happened. Trauma is defined differently by every person. And people come into this business with personal traumas and triggers from their own personal life that, are going to show themselves on the job. And, that's something that's difficult to recognize. Like if someone has an issue with anxiety and you don't have anxiety and you've never had anxiety, and you're dealing with a customer or a citizen that's having an anxiety attack, you're like, oh yeah, anxiety doesn't do that. It's no big deal, no big issue. We have trouble sometimes recognizing what is truly traumatic to someone. So learning how to be open-minded and not dismissing someone's events, because to them it's real, to them it's valid, whether we think it is or not. So we have to be able to open ourselves up and recognize it may have nothing to do with the job, why our officer or why the citizen is acting this way. It could have been, they may have seen something, an officer may see something on a scene that triggers an event from their childhood that they thought they had dealt with it, but they really didn't. They had just suppressed it. And now, boom, it's right on top of them. And then you couple that with all the really bad things that we see. And that's when we have the worst outcomes. So I think the key is just being very proactive and engaging in these conversations all the time, not just when, we were on a 6-car pileup or we were on a structure fire with casualties. It's all the time letting people know you are available and that you are interested in what's going on with them. I think that is the best way to approach this, the mental health awareness. That's kind of what I've been trying to push on the fireside anyway.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good point. Anyone else?
Chief here, Jonathan mentioned someone outside of the police department possibly. Do you have resources outside of officers in blue, I assume?
Yeah, we have a peer support program that we've started over the last 2 years that consists of people in dispatch, patrol ranks, supervisor ranks. So we have a peer support team that's received peer support training. One of the proactive things that we do is when we have peer support that are sergeants, we have peer support that are dispatchers. Well, these events happen. And so sergeants, when they become aware of one of their officers, maybe that was involved in something, they can just shoot an email to the peer support sergeant and say, hey, can you just check in with Andy at some point over the next few days? Because he went on this call. And these calls, people are going on these calls all the time. And so we try to be proactive. And so those peer support members can just touch base in the hallway or something one day and be like, hey, how you doing? I know this thing. And what I found from personal experience is a lot of cops say, oh, I'm good. But they're not. But if you keep at it, maybe that 5th time or that 10th time or that 11th time, they're like, you know what, I need to talk to somebody. And the peer support people they also connect us to outside counselors. So we've got a robust system of outside professionals that's totally confidential that we can send people to. I've advocated, among the membership and roll calls, like, hey, go see somebody. You can do a yearly checkup, even if you don't really think there's something wrong. The cumulative trauma that people in public safety see over time is real. And even if you don't think anything's wrong, it's good we go get physicals once a year. You go get your head checked once a year because it does matter, and we want to get everybody to the end of their career happy and healthy, and all this stuff is cumulative. If you don't take very deliberate steps along the way to take care of yourself, it can get you.
Thank you.
One final thing I'd like to add, and this would be the last thing, is that we need to make sure we check on our peer support people, because a lot of people volunteer to do that because they know it needs to be done. But so not only are they dealing with their own stuff, but they are voluntarily taking on a lot more. I serve on the honor guard for the fire service for the state. And we had an individual that was on a peer support team that committed suicide. But he was in a position where he had taken on the burden of helping others, but it became too much. So when we have folks that are willing, and we have some people that are willing to help, we have to make sure that we don't just assume that they're okay either. And sometimes that kind of gets lost. It's like, oh, they're a peer support member. They don't need help. They obviously know what to do and how to handle it. but when it's their trauma and their crisis, they may not know how to handle it. So we need to make sure we're keeping an eye on everybody.
Good point, Jonathan. Thank you. Okay.
Two things.
Sure.
So just want to say thank you to the department. Brian Lane received training from, I think, Crawley of the active department training module, a couple different sessions over the last month, and it's really well received. The staff really appreciated having that interaction firsthand. So just want to say thank you for that. And then shameless plug for the district as well. June 19th, we'll be releasing our comp plan update to the public for review. So share that around to your colleagues and friends. Will be available through the website, up for about a month to provide public comment. We're hoping to move that forward to adoption in September. So excited to release that for the public to take a look at.
Forward to seeing that. Thank you.
A lot of hard work, about a year
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's good.
And I'd just like to say thank you to Tiffany because she rearranged this room so I can see everybody. So I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, you have my affirmation. I like the setup.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'll have to figure out how to get another table in here when other people come back from whatever they're doing,
Various things.
vacations and
yeah,
fun stuff.
yeah,
So we'll figure it out though.
you will.
Yes,
You will. No, it worked so well tonight. Thank you.
you're welcome. Hopefully the sound worked.
Mhm.
They didn't complain, so I think they must be able to hear it.
And all good over there? I see thumbs up, so.
All right.
All right, well, we will call the meeting at 6:35. Thank
By a
you.
minute from last meeting,
Yeah.
6:36 last time.
Well, this actually says 6:37.
Oh.
Oh,
Sorry, guys.
That's your.
All right, thanks. Bye, Adam. Bye, Jonathan.
you.
Thank you for making it
Bye, guys, thanks.
Have a good night.
too. Bye.